you was a part of the army, but now you're a business person, you're an athlete, and you're a father, more importantly, and there's Guinness World Records. You're looking to raise some money, you've got a big challenge ahead of you. Can you share a bit more insight to that?
I've got 2 Guinness World Records at the moment. Well, one of them's been broken, but I hold one. And I'll be brutally honest with you, I didn't train for either of those. I just picked 2 Guinness World Records that I believed in my head that I could achieve with weight. The new world record, it's not going to be a Guinness World Record, but it's going to be a world's first. So 1,000 miles carrying a weighted backpack with 35 pounds in it in 25 days. That's a marathon and a half marathon, just over, every single day for 25 days, no rest days. And I'm doing that for Reorg. It's a great charity that helps veterans, serving soldiers and blue light responders. And I wanted to give a little bit back because I've served in the military, in the Coldstream Guards and in Guards Parachute Platoon. So I believe giving a little bit back to the military for what it's given to me, because it has given me a great outlook on life, essentially helped me build my business and becoming a military coach. This is kind of my way of giving a little bit back. And it's going to be a great mental challenge and physical challenge for me to see how far I can push out of my comfort zone, you know, because it's not going to be easy.
Welcome back to the podcast, Stephen Sully Study. For those who know me, I enjoy business, and outside of business, I really enjoy sports, specifically boxing. I do believe that a boxer's mindset, an athlete's mindset can be transferred into many areas of your life, whether that's social life, whether that's family life, and specifically business. The man in front of me has a winner's mindset. He's someone I got introduced to via a mutual friend called Ruben Tabarez, and Ruben's someone I highly respect and admire, and typically anyone he introduces me to has the same sort of mindset and is the same type of individual. Farren, welcome
Hello.
to the podcast. Thank you very much for your time. I'm looking forward to having this free-flowing conversation.
Thanks for inviting me, mate.
No problem. So the glaring obvious thing about you, Farren, is you're massively in shape. I got introduced to you a couple of years ago with Ruben. I think his missus was there at the time, here at Woodbury House Art Gallery in Mayfair, and we were launching, I think it was actually our launch in 2023. At the time, you was a part of the army, the military services, but now you're a business person, you're an athlete, and there's a lot of, and you're a father, more importantly, and there's a lot of things that you're up to now. My first question to you is, you did get in the army, I think, a little bit later on in your life. Why did you get into the army?
Yeah, so firstly, thanks for inviting me down. And secondly, when I joined the army, I joined rather late. I was 27. So for anybody joining the army, that is late. A lot of people join when they're 16, 17, 18, when they leave school. But for me, when I left school, my parents wouldn't let me join. So first off, they said to me, we don't want you to join the army. I think Afghanistan was kicking off at the time, and they said, you're a bit of a live wire. I was out drinking all the time. I was a bit of a lad. So they was like, look, just go and get a different career. So I did. I left it on the back burner, and then went and did point of sale, so carpentry, working for the main companies were L'Oreal. So I worked out of Selfridges, Boots, Harrods, those sort of things, inputting stalls into different shops. So pretty boring, but it paid good money. And then from there, I went through my whole kind of career, about 5-6 years, not really knowing what I wanted in life, knowing that I had more to give. And then when I actually got married, I think it was, I need to get this date right or I'll get shot by my wife. It was 2013. And we're away, and she said to me, is there anything you want to do before you get too old? And I was like, well, yeah, I actually want to join the army. So I want to go and be a Queen's Guard at the time, because I've seen it when I was a kid. I really enjoyed seeing the guards on TV with their big bear skins and red jackets, like the tunics. So she said, just go for it. So after we got married, we then came back from our honeymoon, and I then applied to join the army, and then went in through the process of doing that at the age of 27. And like I said there, when I went into training, I was actually a very old guy. I was like the granddad figure within training.
Like the appeal, when I was listening to another podcast that you done, there was a slight moment where I had a very similar story, because I went to join the Marines myself. I really wanted to be in the RAF. And my mum and dad too almost I think my mum sort of broke down, started crying, and they convinced me. And they said, look, if you join the army or join the military, you're absolutely going to get killed. That was their mindset. And maybe that could have been true, that maybe not. And they convinced me to go down another path, and I've become a plumber for many years. And listening to your conversation you have with this other chap, that started to play back in my mind. And part of the appeal going into something like the military was kind of going out on tour, the fighting, the training, you know, the drama, the excitement. And as a young kid almost, you kind of don't think you're ever going to get killed. You just lean on all the exciting elements and kind of block out any of the danger. Am I right in saying, though, like when you got involved with the army, you did pivot into the training side of it rather than actually going on tour and actually fighting against, you know, in Afghanistan, for example, against the Taliban?
Yeah, so I actually never deployed on my time in the army. It never came across my path. I wanted to. I was fully ready mentally and physically to do that. And I think I'd have done a very good job. But with the unit I was in, I never got the opportunity to do that. So what I did, that pivoted me more towards the physical training side of it. So I then started to focus more on the physical aspect of myself and others. And that's kind of where it bred my business and where that actually started within the military to go into what I'm doing now.
Yeah. So you're wildly successful, got a really, really good presence online, got a lot of followers. But going back to the army then when you first joined, and let's just say not being deployed, you're a father now, so obviously the mindset is different, and obviously got a very successful business. But in hindsight, if you could go back and actually be deployed, do you think you would have enjoyed that experience, or do you think God was looking down at you, the spirits were looking down at you, and they kind of pulled you away from that because they had bigger plans for you?
It's a hard question. I think I would have really enjoyed it. At the end of the day, it's going to be very difficult for me to say now in hindsight, and you never know what's going to happen on tour. Different things happen to different people. People do die. People have good experiences, like you have the camaraderie, and you can do a good job while you're away. But for me, I think it's looking back, I think it would have been, I'd have done a good job, but it never happened for me.
So your role in the army at that time was tactical trainer. It was a personal trainer, I guess you call it, bit of life coaching, etc. How do you think? I asked you this off camera because we've had plenty of conversations, you and I, over the last 12, 18 months or 2 years since I got to know you, that the army, the culture of it, seems like it's changed, and some may say for the worse. I mean, when I think about the army, when I think about the military in its entirety, you think about that slogan, be the best, and it is being the best, like it's pushing yourself to the extreme, and it's almost like, doesn't matter whether you get shot at, doesn't matter whether someone screams at you, doesn't matter whether it's raining, whether it's sunny, whether it's snowing, it doesn't matter whether it's 12 o'clock at night or 12 o'clock in the afternoon. You as an army figure, as an elite soldier, you go out there and do your thing that you're meant to be doing, which is defend the country and defend your peers and defend your family. But that seems like it's being diluted over time. How true is that?
I believe so. You know, I feel very strongly about overweight people in the army. And I believe when I was a child, when I was a young lad, I looked at little action figures like the little action men. And that's the way that I seen soldiers. I seen them as the people that are going to look after the country, strong, robust men that are going to look after you. And I thought that was the case when I joined the military as well. But as my time went on through the military, it did dilute. And I think there were a lot of people got into the military that shouldn't necessarily be there. And other people that are in the military seem to let themselves go by putting weight on and being in different ranks within the army, leading other men that shouldn't be there, in my opinion, when they don't look the part. I think if you had two people in a room, two people who are going to take physical training for you, one person's overweight, one person is in shape, doesn't have to be going to the gym every day, being stacked. They just need to be a normal person in normal shape and a fat person. Which person would you want to get taught by? Whether that be in business, whether that be in physical training, whether that be anything. And for me, I'd always go for the person that was in shape. And within the military, I think there's a lot of people that are overweight that shouldn't be leading guys that into any kind of scenario.
Why do you think they've allowed the standards to drop in the army?
I think the testing within the military has got a lot easier since I joined. I think they brought out some new tests, the SCR and the RFT. I think the tests are more inclusive now. And I think because you can pass the test now, they're gender and age free. So you can pass that test at any age and any kind of sex. So there's no differentiation between the tests. Anyone can do the test no matter what age and what sex. So I think that's a big change within the military, and I think that has made a difference. But also there's a lot of different roles within the military, and not everyone does love physical fitness, but I don't believe they should be in roles that like leading roles unless you're in some kind of shape. I'm not talking about people that have got a bit of battle fat, people that have a little bit of a belly. I'm talking about people that are seriously overweight, people that have got their belly hanging over the belt. I don't think they should be. I think they should be taking a long, hard look at themselves.
Yeah. So being in the military yourself, getting in really, really good condition, what else has it done for you mindset wise, being in the army?
You know what, I've been thinking about mindset for quite some time now, and I do believe that the mindset from the army has given me a better mindset. I do believe that the army has given me another layer to my mindset through the hardship, through physical training, and all through the camaraderie, all these different things. But I believe that my mindset initially it started to layer up as a child, and I think it came from my granddad. So a really good a story that I was thinking about the other day is my granddad is a very outdoorsman, loved being outdoors, fishing, shooting, stuff like that. And that's where I'll get my drive from. That's why I love being outdoors. And we used to go fishing and shooting in the winter. So we'd be getting up at like 4 a.m. We'd have to go out, and sometimes we'd have to break the ice on the water, or we'd be going lying in the hedge waiting to shoot something. And I think those years and years, probably 10 years of going out through winters, having to break the ice, getting up at 4 a.m, making breakfast, building those routines, doing things that you don't want to do on a daily basis, and also building the competition in as well, because he used to put me into competitions, fishing, shooting. I believe that actually started to build my mindset from a very young age. And I think from there, that's what gives my love of competition. And I love being wet and cold and miserable. I know it sounds funny, but when I joined the military, I was always the morale guy. I was always the guy that was happy no matter what situation we're in. And you need those guys in life as well as in the military. So I think my mindset was built from a young age from my granddad putting me in those situations, as well as in the military through physical training and day-to-day hardship, doing things that you don't want to do and just doing them every single day. So
being that personal trainer within the military, in the army, how many guys was you leading day in, day out, and what type of training were you doing with them week in, week out? Yeah,
so it was different most weeks really. So like I said, I started as a guardsman, so a normal guy doing on the Palace Guards, so Buckingham Palace, Tower London, St James's Palace. And then from there, I went.
That's where you started.
Yeah, started off from day one. Started off guarding the palaces, doing the Queen's birthday parade.
Because I was under the impression that these guys who are standing outside Buckingham Palace are elite soldiers, and they've been probably doing it for 30 years, and they're like SAS type individuals, or is that completely
different? These guys that are standing outside Buckingham Palace and James's Palace, Tower London, are all young, just passed out of training guys. Most guys are like that you see outside Buckingham Palace are anywhere from, there is older guys like myself, but the majority are early 20s that are standing outside, just passed out of training, because you have to do a couple of years at a ceremonial company when you're in a guards unit. So you do 2 years, around 2 years at one of those ceremonial units in the central London out of Wellington Barracks. So all those guys you see outside are normally fresh out of training that are doing that job.
Wow, I didn't realise. I always thought in the back of my mind, to be protecting the Queen, for example, or the royal family, these individuals standing outside there for a long time with no expressions on their face. Sometimes the tourists are trying to talk to them and they're just stone cold, with no emotion. They must have been trained for years and years and years and years. But you're telling me they've only been probably doing that for a couple of months.
Yeah, they're very capable. So this is the thing about training. So you go up to Catterick and train for 6 months, and you go through all of your skills and drills. So first and foremost, you are a soldier. But secondly, you're a guardsman. So you go through all your soldier training. You're an infantryman. So you are trained to go to war, to go to battle within training. But you're also trained to be a guardsman. So it takes a lot of discipline, like you said there, to stand there for 2 hours at a time, even longer when you're doing parades like the Queen's Birthday Parade. You can stand there for 4 hours in the heat, you know? So you are trained in two disciplines, two different disciplines, what they say second to none within the Coldstream Guards, because you're doing two different things and you are second to none. But I figured this out in training. When I went to training, I was like, I'm going to be a soldier, I'm going to be a guard. And I didn't realize how much training was involved within both things. So you're not just going to an infantry unit and learning how to soldier. You've then also got to learn how to be a guardsman. And you don't want to make yourself look bad. You've got to make yourself look good. You've got to, obviously you don't want to show yourself up. You are in the public eye. So if you do one thing wrong, you mess up, you see it a lot online, you slip over, you mess up a drill, then you could be seen by millions of people throughout the world. So there's a lot of it's very difficult for these young soldiers. They have a lot on their shoulders. They've got to make sure they get it right. So hats off to them.
As a trainer, what is it you look for in a trainee? Is it someone physically strong? Is it someone mentally strong? Their spirit has to be strong. What are you looking for?
For a military recruit, if I was to look at anybody straight in the eye, I want to look at someone that looks the part, looks nice and clean, looks in shape. I want to make sure they do what they're told, they listen, there's no answering back. And I can normally tell through just looking at someone instantly if they're going to be a good soldier, basically. And I always say to anyone, physical fitness is massively important within the military. It's a fundamental aspect in any tactical profession. If you're at the back of a pack, say, doing physical fitness, people remember that forever. Oh, that's the guy at the back. That's the guy at the back. And that can follow you and haunt you for your whole career. So I always say, if you turn up fit, you're willing to put your hand up when you don't want to do jobs that you don't want to do, you literally don't answer back, you listen and learn, they're all things that you should be doing. You can tell someone straight off the bat if they're going to be like that. The people that are normally hassle are the guys that don't look after their kit, don't iron their clothes. When you look at their room when they're in training, they're putting, I don't know, food at the bottom of their bed, or they're hiding it in their cupboard. They're not ironing things correctly, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we've got the blessing now, and probably the curse, but certainly if you use it in the right way, it can be a blessing, of social media, Instagram. And when you first joined the military, as you mentioned, it was just kicking off the war over in Afghanistan, early 2000s. Instagram and stuff, you know, social media wasn't even really a thing. And fast forward the clocks, you've come out the military and you built up this online profile. I think when I checked this morning, you're close to 300,000 followers on Instagram. And again, that could be a bit of a curse. It could also be a blessing if you use it in the right way. How has having a social media following really helped you in your business?
So when I first started, while I was serving in the military in 2021 during COVID, I started with zero. So I started off, and what I did is I started working out during COVID in a body armor, just some cool stuff, showing off a little bit, working out so people could do it at home. And then from there, my social profile started to grow. So really all it was is me just showing off, doing 10, 15-minute workouts just to get out there to people that wanted to see it, okay? But then from there, my business evolved from that and to selling little ebooks that I made quite quickly for people into an actual business called The Tactical Athlete that helped people all over the world. Now, having a social following of almost 300,000 means I'm reaching people all over the world. So I can, with my online coaching business, I can coach people now in the four corners of the earth, you know, and I do have a majority of my clients are UK and US. So I think having that profile of having people in all these different countries, they learn what I believe is the right way to live, which is being in shape, looking good, feeling good and performing better, and B, seeing the way that I train. So I think I train optimally for military or police or any kind of tactical profession. So I think having that sort of following helps me push my boundaries as well, knowing that I've got almost 300,000 eyes looking at me almost every single day. I need to perform at all times.
In the UK, you've got Ant Middleton, and there's a bunch of different guys Foxy, is it? And there's a few different ones that have all kind of seemed like they've taken a bit of the spotlight as far as former military or elite soldiers gone onto TV, and they've gone off to do some wildly successful, crazy businesses, which is great. Some of them have been ridiculed for certain things. Some of them have been they've been made heroes, etc. And then in America, you've got Jacko and you've got David Goggins, etc. And my question, and maybe you don't even have the answer to this, but how much of it is genuine stuff, or how much of it is just for social media's sake?
I'd say that social media gives me personally an extra drive to do some things that I wouldn't normally do. So it may be the same for these other guys. Like I say, I can't speak for them because they're in their own household, but I doubt that a lot of them would, especially I'm thinking about Goggins here over in the US. I don't know if a lot of stuff that he'd do unless it was seen by the public eye. Now, the other guys from the UK, the SES guys, they are the best of the best. What they do on TV is literally what they've done for the whole career, so hats off to them. But over in the US, you got Goggins and stuff like that. He's the main one I'm thinking about. I don't know how much of that is real, but people that have trained with him seem to struggle. So I do believe that what he does, he's the real deal, you know. Now, when it comes to me training and what I do, I try to show to the best of my ability of what I actually train like and what I do. But I don't have a team behind me filming me day to day, and I have a job as well. So I have to coach my athletes as well as train. So for me, I do the best that I can, and I train and show the best of what I do. Yeah.
We were talking as well, and I know this is more of a broad conversation, but again, factoring in the pressures of social media, and when you've got a big following, there isn't typically a business which is born off the back end of that following. And then if you've got a family, if you've got commitments, if you've got overheads, you're under pressure all the time to maintain that following, grow that following, and therefore make your business perform. And sometimes you might do things that might help the business, but actually could be really damaging to you as a person. And I'm talking about things like sports enhancing drugs, steroids, etc. How many kind of all these influencers online do you think, just because you're in the business and you've got a good following yourself, Farren, how much of it is endorsed by things like steroids, growth hormone, etc.?
I think a high percentage. I'd probably say it's well over 75% of everything that you see online. Someone's taken some kind of performance enhancing drug, whatever that might be, whether it's steroids, SARMs, peptides, growth hormones, whatever that might be. There'll be over 75% that take that sort of stuff. And I say that because a lot of stuff that I do, the way that I train, I'm burnt out. And you see some of these other guys that train 10 times harder than me, and they're not burnt out. They seem to be able to run, weightlift, do this, do that every single day. And I know if I do 6-7 days continuously, I'm bollocks. I need a day off. I need 2 days off. And some of these guys don't. So definitely I think that they're either better than me or they are taking some kind of performance enhancing drug.
Because it's almost like, I mean, this is a bit of a rabbit hole kind of conversation, because it's then, you know, looking at the young, let's call it young men, you know, kids who are 16, 17, 18, they're now getting into their early 20s, and they're looking at these social media stars and thinking, I want to look like that. I want to be like that. I want to have that following. I want to have that car. I want to have that watch. I want to have that girl. I want that house. And I need to, the quick ticket there is to do X, Y, Z. And it's almost like a bit of a false economy for these people. How, I mean, do you think there's, I don't even know what the question is going to be, whether there should be more regulation or should there be something else put in place to let these people know that, yeah, you could do that, but there's going to be a big downside to it?
No, I think the best thing that you can do, firstly, if you think that someone's got the life you want to live, is ask them the question. Ask them, are you doing X, Y, and Z? Or how have you got to X, Y, and Z? Because I have a lot of young people in the 17, 18, 19-year-olds ask me, how do you get to where you are? How did you join the military? How did you get the following you've got? How did you get in shape that you got into? And I'll be very honest with them and tell them exactly how I got to where I am now. It takes time, it takes consistency and all this sort of stuff. But everyone gets to different places at different speeds. So the age-old comparison's a thief of joy. I'll be honest, I sometimes look at other people that are much further along than me in their journey, and I get a little bit like, oh, well, how come I'm not there? But you just got to realize that we're all racing our own race, so try not to race someone else's race. We're all living life, and just work at your own pace, We're all going to be dusting. Well, I'm going to be dusting about 40 years, I think, but we're all going to be dusted at some point, just go all in and ask the question to these people. This is one thing that people don't do. Ask the question. Just ask questions to the people that you want to be like.
Yeah. So you're looking to break some more world records, Guinness World Records, and you're looking to raise some money. You've got a big challenge ahead of you. Can you share a bit more insight to that?
Yeah, so do you know what? I've got 2 Guinness World Records at the moment. Well, one of them's been broken, but I hold one. And I'll be brutally honest with you, I didn't train for either of those. I just picked 2 Guinness World Records that I believed in my head that I could achieve with weight. And the second one that I broke was recently for Jacob, who now sadly passed away. But I wanted to break a world record for him, just to raise some awareness, raise some money for his charity to hopefully keep him alive. Unfortunately, he died a couple of weeks ago.
And who was he?
That was Jacob Hall. He was serving in the military.
Okay.
But we broke the Guinness World Record for him. We came down. It gave him a lease of life for that amount of time. We raised some good money, and it was great to break a world record for him. So it was a great thing for me to do, even with no training. It just shows you that the mindset is there, and I can still go out and do those sort of things. It was a hard world record to break. But the new world record, it's not going to be a Guinness World Record, but it's going to be a world's first, let's say. And that's going to be a 1,000 mile ruck. So 1,000 miles carrying a weighted backpack with 35 pounds in it in 25 days. So that's going to be 40 miles every single day for 25 days. So just to break it down, that's a marathon and a half marathon, just over every single day for 25 days, no rest days. And I'm doing that for Reorg. It's a great charity that helps veterans, serving soldiers and blue light responders. And I wanted to give a little bit back because I've served in the military, in the Coldstream Guards and in Guards Parachute Platoon. So I believe giving a little bit back to the military for what it's given to me, because it has given me a great outlook on life. It essentially helped me build my business, becoming a military coach, an athlete. So this is kind of my way of giving a little bit back. And it's going to be a great mental challenge and physical challenge for me to see how far I can push out of my comfort zone, because it's not going to be easy. I know through fact, for any person now listening, you just go out and walk 40 miles with no weight on your back and then wake up the next morning or sleep in a tent, wake up the next morning in a tent, go and walk another 40 miles, go sleep in a tent, walk another 40 miles without any kit for 3 days and see how you feel. And then think about it with 35 pounds for 25 days.
Are you going to be in normal kind of attire, or are you going to be in military stuff?
Yes, I'm going to wear normal attire. I'm going to be wearing your normal. I'm not actually sure what I'm going to wear yet, because it's going to be a winter course. So I'm not actually sure what I'm actually going to wear. But I think I'm going to be wearing normal kind of weatherproof kind of leggings or shorts and a nice waterproof jacket,
Part of the thing in the back of my mind is you're doing it for charity. You're doing it for your own feel-good factor. You're doing it maybe to help the online kind of social following to grow your business. Part of it, in my back of my mind, I could be completely wrong. Is there like a bigger picture where you think, if I keep on doing these things, breaking records, maybe a big TV program may approach me and I might get signed up to one of these great programs which can actually catapult me into something else? Is that what you're thinking about?
Yes, always. I'm always looking for opportunities, and I think everything that I do, I'm trying to open doors for myself, whether that's physical training, whether that's people I speak to, like being today on the podcast, trying to get the message out, whether that is the challenges that I partake in. And I'm hoping that people do see it, and I'm hoping that A, people are inspired and want to go after these challenges themselves. And then B, I'm hoping that someone does pick it up. And I'd love to do my own kind of show on TV. I'd love to be able to do some sort of physical training or adventurous kind of show where I can do these challenges all over the world. Yeah. And be paid for it.
Yeah. So you keep yourself in clear good nick. What type of training is it you're doing? Are you doing running a lot of time, circuits a lot of time? Are you doing any kind of combat sport like boxing or MMA? Is it weights? What type of training do you do?
So Farren? It changes. My training changes like I don't know, like the sun comes up and down. So depending on what my challenge is, it depends on what I'm going to be training for. But like I said earlier, I didn't really train for the Guinness World Records, but I think my training normally is good enough to go and complete those sort of Guinness World Records. So I'll do normal weightlifting, like bodybuilding style. They call it functional bodybuilding with an aspect of cardio in it. So, and some running with weight. So every single week, I'd say for the last 10 years, I've done some form of strength training, some form of running with weight, and some form of normal body weight running. That's the way that I program people as well. But now, as I'm moving into this new challenge, I'm focusing more on running with weight. So day after day, continuous carrying weight, as well as strength training and some really tough lower limb conditioning, just to make sure my body knows the sort of fatigue that I'm going to encounter over all that pounding that leg is going to take.
And what's your diet like?
Diet is, I always think it's funny when people say, oh, you got to eat clean, it's cheat meals. I hate that term. I think I eat, I'd say 70% good, 30% bad.
And what does 70% good look like?
Whole foods, really nutritious food. So I'll have chicken, prawns, that sort of thing. Anything fish, all those sort of proteins, high in protein. People say not to eat pasta and rice, but I love it. So I'm a big fan of pasta, rice, and bread. I love bread. It's like a foundation of what I eat. Anyone that doesn't eat bread are mad, in my opinion. So that, and then a lot of vegetables. I love smoothies. I love making smoothies myself. And I get a lot of my fats from nuts. That's kind of what I class as clean eating, high protein, a little bit lower on the carbs, but I do have carbs, and then high in fat as well through nuts and fish.
Do you drink alcohol?
Yes, rarely. I think if I drink alcohol, it puts me back. So it'll put me back in my training. Now I'm almost 40, or I'm 38. When I was younger, I could drink 5 days on the bounce and not even be bothered. Whereas now, if I do drink, it's going to take me 5 days to recover. That's 5 days it takes me to recover through business and also through fitness. So now I take it easy, probably drink 2 to 3 times a year.
Part of the reason why I was asking you that is because I don't know now, but I know back in the day, it was almost like train hard and also party hard. And there was a bit of a culture that you would have a serious booze, you would have, a lot of beer, and then next day you'll get up and go for a run. Is the army like that? Is it full of quite a heavy drinking culture?
Yeah, I'd say it used to be bigger. When I joined, I never really got involved in it too much, but there is a good, what I always say, because I was a PT, I was a PTI, and if you turned up and you've been out on the piss the night before, but you could do your job, it's fine. If you can run and be sick, and fair play. But as soon as you turn up and you can't do your job and you can't go out and come out on the run with us, or you can't perform, that's when it becomes an issue. But I think there's always going to be a good element of drinking in the military, because it's camaraderie. You have a good laugh, and I'll be honest, I enjoyed it. Especially working in central London. You know what it's like I said to you earlier, you got 17, 18, 19-year-olds getting the first job in central London, getting 1,500 quid a month, and what they're going to spend it on, because they get there, I think it's about £30 a month to live in the block. So all the rest of the money goes on going out partying in London. So I don't condone it at all. I think each their own, go and enjoy it as long as you can perform afterwards.
Thank you for your time, Farren. I really, really enjoyed this podcast interview, and we've got a few more big exhibitions coming up. I would love to see you back there with Ruben and maybe some of the crew. You still stay in contact with Ruben occasionally?
Yes. Yeah, he's a good guy, Ruben.
Are you still? Do you follow the boxing?
A little bit, yeah. I've seen him with Derek Chisora. I've seen him in the ring the other week when I was watching it. It was a good fight.
Yeah.
Cracking little fight that was. And I actually really enjoyed it. Proper toe-to-toe scrap.
That was against Joe Joyce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really good scrap. I enjoyed it. I watched that with my dad, actually. I drove up to Leicester and watched it, and I thought it was a really good one to watch.
My last question is this. I came up with a quote a couple of years ago, and it goes like this, Farren. Be happy, never content. If I were to ask Farren Morgan, what is your interpretation of be happy, never content?
So what I think about that is make sure that you're always striving for greatness, and just make sure that you stay true to yourself. So being happy to me is staying true to yourself, family, work, and just living life. And then never being content is like just making sure that you're always chasing your dreams, making sure that you're always pushing boundaries, never sit still, and like never be one of those little sitting on the sofa watching Netflix. Get out and do something good for your life.
Thanks very much for your time, mate. Really enjoyed the conversation, and be happy, never content. Nice
Thanks,
one.
Steve.